Hello, some more Solstice Shorts. This is the most recent book, Time and Tide, which was December the 21st, 2019. And the theme this time was Time and Tide. So we had events on the coast, which meant that they were quite remote, which also meant that we were very challenged in getting BSL interpreters. So we used the money that we'd got to fund that to do some BSL translations. It's a subtle difference, and there'll be some of those at the end of this video. So, Time and Tide, the inspiration for this was the feminist magazine of the early 20th century, Time and Tide, Waits for No Man. So although we were asking for stories and poems about living by the sea, making a living by the sea or on the sea, which rather lends itself to pirates and fishermen, we said we wanted some really strong female voices, and boy did we get them. And a couple of people spotted what I hadn't, which was that the woman who started Time and Tide had actually been shipwrecked, which was a brilliant little touch that went into several of the poems we received. So there's quite a few shipwrecks actually of various different kinds, and some refugees and old sailors and fisher folk and wreckers, dockers, you name it. If you can think of something that happens because of or in spite of almost the sea, then it's here. And we were in Greenwich and Maryport, which is in Cumbria, and Hastings and Peterhead, which is in the very far north of Scotland, and Clydebank near Glasgow, Holyhead on the Isle of Anglesey, and Lisbon. No, we tried to go international with Noon, but the norovirus got in the way. This was our first actual international ta-da event. Wow, that's so exciting. And again, we did live uploads to the internet on Facebook, and they're all still there if you want to have a look. I'll include some clips. And this time we also included film poems, or are they poem films? I get very confused. I don't want to offend the people who make them by getting it wrong, so it was one or the other. Just two. And we showed those where we had the facilities to show them, which was not everywhere.
unbanter, uncurse, unlaugh, un-4 o'clock home horn, unhammer, unrivet, unweld, unwish this ship and all who sail in her. Underneath the pterodactyl crane, there is peace.
And really being able to take over the Fisherman's Museum in Hastings and to perform against the backdrop of Peterhead docks was really quite something. It really was. I mean, some of the venues, yes, they were near a port, but you'd never know it. I mean, the Greenwich one, we were in the University Gallery, who are great friends of ours and huge supporters, and we thank them enormously. But you couldn't see the river from there, so that was kind of, if we could have done it on the Cutty Sark, we would have, but there are limits. Really, there are limits. So I'm very pleased with this book, and we did a special edition. This is the special edition. You can't tell it's different from the other one until you open it. This one has illustrations. And so this one was produced for the festival. And then we've done a standard edition. We call it a standard edition. It's not, it's still actually somewhat bigger than our other books, just because some of the poems wouldn't lay out well enough in a smaller book, and I wasn't happy with it, so we thought we'd just go just that little bit bigger. But unfortunately, we were going to launch this the week after lockdown started. We got our venue. We were going to use the Old Naval College in Greenwich. They said yes, we could use their wonderful, wonderful space. And we were all geared up to do that, and then no, we couldn't. Consequently, we sold none through the bookshops because all the bookshops shut, literally none. And we took the launch online with a week's notice. Huge, magnificent effort from authors who in some cases had never videoed themselves before. I was frantically writing crib sheets, and this is how to do it, and make sure auto rotate is on, and make sure auto rotate is on, and very naggy it was, I have to say. And it was what it was. A couple of people did forget to put auto rotate on. And it was great fun, but we sold 3 books off the back of that to people who would probably have bought them anyway. So we have quite a stack of these, and we would really like them to get out into the world. So if you would like one of these, there will be special offers. So there are some special offers for this book in particular that are more substantial than the offers on some of the other books. If you buy you can buy the whole series. If you buy the whole series, we'll give you a spectacular discount. If you buy at least 3, we'll give you a spectacular discount. That kind of thing. Because we want people to be reading this. We don't want them sitting in the warehouse. Sitting in the warehouse is no use to anybody. If you run a bookshop, especially if you're by the sea, it's a really good book. Why not stock it? Nice cover by me. Anyway, so that is Time and Tide. this might be a good time to talk about forward planning for Solstice Shorts, and to repeat the news for this year. This year we are doing Times Go by Turns and Chances Change by Course, which is a poem by Robert Southall, who was a 16th century poet who died for his faith, but that's not why we chose him. We chose him because it is a poem that, at a very difficult time in my life, was giving me great comfort, and in the early stages of the COVID crisis, it popped back into my brain, and I thought that would work as a theme for Solstice Shorts, wouldn't it? So the call out for that was for stories and poems, and indeed songs, that responded to the poem as a whole, the concept of the poem, which is basically, yeah, it might be shit now, but it will get better. But don't forget, when you're riding the crest of the wave, there'll be a trough later too, or any one image in it. And I'm currently looking at typesetting the book and trying to figure out whether I can sort of group things by which bit they were, which part of the poem they were responding to, and using the line as the header. I'm not sure. That'd be kind of fun if I could. Anyway, so the people we have chosen from our very large collection of people who applied are C.L. Herndon, Claire Booker, who is also in Time and Tide, Eleanor Brooks, who is in a lot of our stuff, Jane Aldous, author of Let Out the Gin, Julian Bishop, who's a new one for us, Karen Ankers, who's been involved in Solstice Shorts quite a bit, Katie Hall, who's new for us, Kelly Davis, who we first published in Dusk, Layla Sumpton, who we've published several times, I think exclusively in Solstice Shorts, but I wouldn't swear to that, Lynn White, who was in Time and Tide, S.B. Merrow, who's new, Sean Carney, who's new, Ness Owen, author of Mummy Oath, and who has been a stalwart of Solstice Shorts ever since Shortest Day, I think, was the first time we published her. And she's been part of the organisation since Dusk and done a terrific job. And then with the stories, we have Brooke Stanicki, who is new, Jackie Taylor, who we've published before, Jane McCaughlin, who's new, Keely O'Shaughnessy, who's new, Linda McMullen, who we've published before, Margaret Crompton, who's in No Spider Harmed, Neil Lawrence, who's in Time and Tide, Patience McCarness, who we've published before, Pippa Gladhill, who was in the very first Solstice Shorts book and has been published by us a couple of times since. And we have music from Kevin Taplin, who was part of Time and Tide in Greenwich, Rebecca Askew, who's new to us, and Sharon Martin, who performed for Dusk in Courage Copse, in wherever Courage Copse is. My brain's gone. Devon. Anyway, Barnstaple, that's it. Yeah, so, and Sharon Martin, who performed for Dusk in our Barnstaple venue, Courage Copse. So, we hope we'll be doing something live somewhere, but if not, we'll do it online, and it'll be marvellous, whatever we do, I'm sure. But then I'm still thinking about the future a lot, and some of the things I'm thinking about with Solstice Shorts is this international thing, and the fact we've done Dusk and Noon, but we haven't done Dawn yet. Dawn's a bit challenging unless it's a weekend, so that might have to wait until there's another weekend. But if we go on having to do it online, it doesn't really matter. It can be, in fact, it might work rather nicely online. The idea with Dawn is to team up with people and places in probably Nordic countries, so Iceland, Finland, Norway, Sweden. And celebrate the rising of the sun on the shortest day of the year, because these are places where that really matters. You know, when your sunlight lasts a couple of hours and the sun doesn't get up until 11 o'clock, you kind of care about it and you make a bit of a thing of it on the shortest day. So the idea is that that is what we'll do, and it will be our first translation gig. I've been talking about this for 3 years, mind you, and it's finding the right people elsewhere, working out how to fund it, how to actually do it. I keep talking to people and say, oh, it's easy, and I'm thinking, it really isn't, or it isn't easy for me. Anyway, so that's something we might do. We might do a sunrise one, as opposed to dawn, being subtly different. There might be a sunset one. After that, don't know. So if you've got any ideas about really neat time themes, I am not doing a book of clocks, by the way, so get that one out of your mind. Actually, what about time is running out? We could do an eco one. That would be fun, wouldn't it? This is hot off the press news, guys. I've literally just thought of that. So we might do a questionnaire at some point and ask people what they fancy Solstice Shorts wise. What should we do next? I think time is running out might be quite fun. Fun might not be quite the right word for that, but it would engage my brain, is what I mean. Anyway, so as I say, this is the most recent Solstice Shorts Time and Tide. So that's your lot.
Arrival, Valerie Bence. It starts by not sailing on a Thursday or Friday or the first Monday in April or the second in August. Saturdays or Sundays were preferred, the 17th and 29th being especially auspicious. Don't step on board left foot first, wear green or carry a black bag, don't have red hair, be cross-eyed, clap nor whistle unless you are the youngest on board or the ship's cook. Best not to be a woman unless you're naked or about to give birth. Never throw stones into the sea, leave a bowl or bucket upside down, have flowers on board, nor cut hair or toenails once a ship has sailed. Sailors should sleep only on their backs. Never let a bell ring, unless a watch bell, for it will ring for death. It's useful to have a loved one's hair knitted into your sock to ensure your return to dry land, but don't let them wave you goodbye. Don't join a ship whose name ends in A, change a ship's name after launch, nor stick a knife in a mast unless you are becalmed, as it will summon up the wind. Never say 13, say 12 plus 1. If there is a death on board, the sailmaker should stitch the body in sailcloth with 13 stitches, the last one through the nose to make sure they are dead and don't follow the ship. Never say goodbye, drown, or pig, especially not pig. Use gruff, little fella, or Mr. Dennis, but it is fine to say pig if you have one tattooed upon a knee. Pig on knees, safety at sea. In the galley, never cross knives on the table, stir tea with a knife or fork, or pass salt directly to another person. Pass the salt, pass sorrow. Never borrow a spoon, always eat fish from head to tail. Eggshells must be broken into tiny pieces to stop witches getting in. Pray for an albatross or dolphin to show the way to land. Never harm them. They carry the spirits of dead sailors. A year she lived like this, newly married Mary, amongst such men who wore gold in their ears to improve their eyesight, or to pay Davy Jones if drowned at sea. Men who would never reach through the rungs of a ladder to handle a flag, which would break the Holy Trinity. A year to get there. If the world had been flat, they would surely have gone over the edge. More dangerous then, they say, than becoming astronaut, blasting off the Earth. She would return without him, leaving 7 babies behind. A year's journey before she stood in dimity and cotton lawn, quite unfit for climate, a little behind her husband in the small boat. Soon she would have to disembark, blinded by the blue, step on land as if she knew what she was doing. Removing her 2 dainty shoes, she took his hand, jumped delicately onto bone-dry sand. They had God in their luggage, but she may have had in her pocket the feather of a wren killed on New Year's Day for safe passage. Mary Williams, new wife of LMS missionary John, sailed to the South Seas on board the Harriet, 1816-17.